Hi, welcome to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Mariandrea, and I have an announcement video. So this is kind of like a slightly unofficial announcement because it is just to talk about my plans for reading YA in the month of August. I usually designate summer reading to reading more YA literature and coming of age stories. I think that there's something very nostalgic about summer, and I enjoy dwelling in the nostalgia of coming of age, of young adulthood. Um, So I enjoy coming of age stories and young adult genre fiction and nonfiction, especially in the summer, as um, you see young adults, high school students, um, more available, like more present, more naturally involved in life and community, not in school. And then there's the excitement. You go to the stores, and this time of year, it's back to school, and there's this excitement of a fresh start, whether you're going to high school or college. There's this like new adventure every year. And I still like academic planners or mid-year planners where you start a new year fresh in August, and I really enjoy that. That brings a lot of nostalgia to just the way I grew up with kind of starting a new adventure or a new year in the month of August. So I do this yearly where I just kind of am drawn to coming of age stories and YA lit in in the summer, especially in the month of August. And I hadn't shared this on BookTube, and I was thinking I was creating a bingo card for myself, and I thought, you know what, why don't I share it? Maybe there's one or two people out there that love YA as much as I do and would like to use this as a starting point for reading more YA lit and coming of age. So why read YA lit? So I am a 40-something middle-aged woman, and I still enjoy coming of age and YA literature, mostly because of the nostalgia. But the way I see life so far is that we're always coming of age. So coming of age stories are always relevant, even though we're at a different point in our lives. I feel like when I turned 40, I was kind of coming of age again into like a second wave of life. And I just have to think like, bless your heart to my younger self who thought I had reached the pinnacle of adulthood and was done coming of age. Because I really wasn't. I feel like in my 40s, I'm kind of coming of age in a different way. And I suspect that it'll continue to feel that way when I turn 60, when I turn 80. There will be a new wave of coming of age and what that means to come of a certain age. Adulthood is a very, very long thread of our lifetime, and one one step into adulthood does not mean that you've experienced it all, as I think we naively think when we are young. Um, so that's why I get so much out of reading coming of age stories, because I'm reminded of that crossing that line from young adulthood to adulthood and yearning for that growing up. And then you get to a point where maybe that yearning is different, comes with other things to manage. And it's very bittersweet. It's very sweet, more sweet than bitter, but it's very, very sweet to remember that yearning for growing up. So this is why, as a middle-aged woman, I still enjoy coming of age stories and YA literature, and that remembering the feelings of maybe a first love, or maybe a a friendship that really changed you, a family situation that was the first very challenging family situation you dealt with, maybe the first time you experienced a deep sense of loss or a deep sense of longing. And those are all emotions that I think are worth remembering, because, and as we reflect on those younger emotions of our younger selves, I think it can inform us and to how we yearn and long and live and celebrate the present. So this is your invitation to join me in reading YA literature in the month of August. It doesn't have to be specifically marketed as young adult, because that's a whole other like topic to discuss, right? I think markets certain things as young adult, but I feel like young adult is such a broad like category. I mean, people fit into a young adult narrative from 15 years of age to 30 years of age. Like all like these people in between those ages are grappling with some aspects of coming of age and considered young adults. So yeah, very different milestones and very different things happening, life experiences in that age range from 15 to 30. So some of the books that I'm going to share with you that are on my shelves that I consider YA appropriate, or like a YA crossover, to where they maybe are more adult literary fiction or adult fiction, but I think can be read and enjoyed as a young adult, or have a coming of age story in them that makes them feel like a bit YA in terms of coming of age themes in the novels. So I'll start with sharing some books off my shelf, and then I'll introduce the bingo card. So the first book that's here, I have a stack here next to me on a pile on the floor that's like 2 feet high. I have a manga, Hirayasumi. This is volume 1, Story and Art by Keigo Shinso. I heard about this on the Book Riot podcast, and I thought, this speaks to me. This is a manga that is very slice of life. It's a quiet manga, and it's a series. I am really interested in starting a new manga series. I've never really gotten into manga, so I'm really excited for this one. I couldn't help but pick it up. The back of this says, at 29 years old, carefree, Hiroto Ikuta doesn't have a girlfriend, a full-time job, or a plan for the future, and he couldn't be happier. Hiroto's breezy attitude isn't easy for everyone to understand, though. In a world filled with anxiety, confusion, and grief, Hiroto and the people who surround him are all just doing their best to figure out this thing called life. I think that's what YA literature is about, figuring out what does it mean to live, and values, developing, like identifying those values. After developing an unlikely friendship with a grouchy old woman, I love a grouchy old person, who lives in his neighborhood, Hiroto suddenly finds himself inheriting not just her house, but some rather difficult emotions as well. His 18-year-old cousin Natsumi moves in with him, but as a struggling art student, she has her own troubles to deal with, and may just put Hiroto's easygoing lifestyle to the test. So, got family elements, unlikely friendship, and really like coming to terms with life, and emotions such as anxiety, confusion, and grief are all very typical emotions found in coming of age stories and young adult fiction. So I'm really excited for this. You know what? In reading the back, I also kind of thought of Convenience Store Woman, and that one can also very well fit into that YA theme of what does it mean to live, and the milestones that you cross or don't cross. And I think being a late bloomer is certainly, or maybe living life differently than what your parents expect you to, or society expects you to, think all of those are really great themes that we deal with as young adults before we come into our own and have more of like a set uh, identity and core values. I also have this one on my shelves. It's called Horse Girls. It's, I think, an anthology of essays, recovering, aspiring, and devoted writers to find the iconic bond. I picked this up at my local indie. It's a used book, and it's in really great shape. But I picked this up for my reading challenge, like reading like the Belchers, and I'm reading like Tina. So this is one of the books that I want to read like Tina. And because it reminded me of Tina Belcher, who is a teen, I thought this is a great, maybe YA, like, the back here says, Emily Copley Eisenberg, author of The Third Rainbow Girl, says, a sublime exploration of the ways horses bring together the physical, the spiritual, and the ineffable feminine, funny, earnest, sexy, and unexpected. A piece of what the back says. I won't read it all, but it says, by turns thought-provoking and personal, Horse Girls reclaims this titular stereotype to ask the bold questions about autonomy and desire, privilege and ambition, identity and freedom, and the competing forces of domestication and wildness. This is on my YA stack because of Tina Belcher. um, I've talked about this before, so I won't go too much into it. This is Josie the Tiger and the Fish. This is a collection of short stories by Seiko Tanabe. Sandra Cisneros Caramelo. This is very summary. It's a family novel. It's a young girl traveling with her family from Chicago to Mexico on a road trip. My friend here on BookTube, Ellen at Ellen Made Book Club, described this as YA. I hadn't yet thought about it that way, but I think she's right. So I put it on my stack. This is Marina by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. It is a horror novel by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and there is a coming of age element to this. With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is one that I own. I've also read The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and that's a great YA book in prose, in poet, like verse, sorry, that told in verse. And I think I've talked about this one before, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but it is a story about a high schooler thinking about college, and she is also a single teen mom and needs support from her family and her community. I've also talked about this as a favorite on my shelves. This is Snake Falls to Earth by Darcy Little Badger. I love this book so much, and I'm really excited to be reading it lots away in August. So it is also a book by Darcy Little Badger, and I'm reading Latsue with Melinda out of Web Stories and her book club. This is on my shelves. I have not read this, but I really want to. It's called Wilder Girls by Rory Power. It is YA horror. Jeff Vandermeer says, Wilder Girls is so sharp and packs so much emotion in such wise ways. I'm convinced we're about to witness the emergence of a major new literary star. Dawn Kurtgotkic, author of Teeth in the Mist, says, a feminist LGBT plus sci-fi horror story with all the tantalizing elements of gore, mystery, war, and love you can ask for. Real, flawed, brave girls against a world gone mad. Wilder Girls. I'm interested in it. I've talked about this one. Warrior Girl on Earth. This is one I'll be reading in the month of August. I've also recently talked about this one, The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This is not marketed as YA, but there is a coming of age story throughout most of this novel. Lenny, the main character, is coming of age, and she is a girl, a woman to root for in this novel. This one has been on my shelves for a bit, and I love Nicole Corner Stacy's short fictions. I'm really looking forward to this Archivist Wasp. This is sci-fi, maybe some horror, and definitely weird, I think. This is what it says on the back. Wasp's job is simple. Hunt ghosts. Every year she has to fight to remain archivist. Desperate and alone, she strikes a bargain with the ghost of a super soldier. She will go with him on his underworld hunt for the long-lost ghost of his partner, and in exchange she will find out more about his pre-apocalyptic world than any archivist before her. And there is so much to know. I'm going to leave it there, but there is definitely stuff happening with ghosts and apocalyptic fiction. Jeff Vandermeer also blurbed this, saying a tremendously inventive and smart novel, Archivist Wasp is like Kafka by way of Holly Black and Shirley Jackson, but completely original. Highly recommend. So that's on my shelf to read. I'm also reading Dune this summer as one of my big books of summer. Dune by Frank Herbert. This is definitely like, I see it as YA. The Downstairs Girls by Stacey Lee. I really love this book. I read this a few years back. I really like Stacey Lee's writing. It is historical fiction, and I really, really, really love her work. Highly recommend The Downstairs Girl. I acquired this book, I think this year. This is by a local to me author. I purchased this in support of my local authors, and this is Secret of the Moon Conch by David Bowles and Guadalupe Garcia McCall. It is a story about teens. There's maybe some elements of, I think, time travel, perhaps, and mythology. This one has been one that I want to read this year. I'm going to try to get to it in August. This is The Weight of Our Sky by Hannah Alcott. Hannah Alcott wrote The Girl and the Ghost, and I loved that. That was a middle grade novel. This is YA. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. I've talked about this one before too. This is Living Beyond Borders, Growing Up Mexican in America, edited by Margarita Longoria. This is a collection of essays, poetry, short stories. It is about growing up, coming of age as a Mexican or Mexican American in the United States. And it is such a good book. I savor it every time I read from it. Just really savor every piece in here. I love it so much. And last but not least, I have to include this, Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice is a classic. It's not marketed YA, but I really feel like there are elements of YA that I love about this, and most of us, I think, are introduced to Pride and Prejudice as adolescents. I would also maybe put Wuthering Heights in here, because I think Wuthering Heights comes to us oftentimes through our education system when we are teenagers, and it's difficult to, for me, it was difficult to understand Wuthering Heights as a teenager, but I feel like there are elements of coming of age in both Wuthering Heights and in Pride and Prejudice, and a lot of classic literature has really great explorations of coming into your own. So I just have to include it because it's Jane Austen July, and it's something I'm thinking about. So those are some of the books that I had on hand in near me that I could quickly grab and share with you in terms of books that I might consider YA or coming of age now I'll share the bingo card. Okay, so this is the bingo card. It is a bit blurry. I will try to zoom in. So, and I'll see if I can include this as a community post, but it is a celebration. August is a celebration of YA Lit in the month of August. It's a win if you fill in the center square, but have fun and read to your heart's content. So this is, I set it up like a Loteria card in Loteria when we play the Loteria game. Sometimes we play with a square in the middle, and if you just do I'm calling it, if you do a square in the middle, if you read these 4 books, it's a win. If you read one, it's a win. But my goal for myself is to try to read within that middle square. Anything else that I read outside of that middle square is like a bonus. So let's zoom in and see. In the middle square, I have a banned book, a manga, a series, so either start a new series or continue in a series, and travel. Travel, that can be whatever. It could be people on the move, like traveling in a car or a vehicle, or there being some like travel on the cover, or a reference to traveling, a reference to a journey, maybe time travel. So those are my 4 squares. These are the ones that I'm prioritizing. And then I have I have space, fire, girl, animal. The next row is boy. Then we have the band and the manga, and blue. And then the next row, we have relationship, then the series and travel, and then nature. Last row, I have place, friends, house, system. System can be interpreted as maybe it could be sci-fi related, or maybe it's political, maybe it's a fiction or nonfiction about systems, society, teens, young people challenging the system or the systems in place. It could be about liberation. It could be about finding their voice, standing up, being active participants in a system. That can just apply in so many ways. Those are just like off the top of my head thoughts about system. So that is the bingo card. I'll put it in my community post, and let me know if you might have some opportunity. I'll try to let me know if you have an opportunity to participate in August with me, and I'm looking forward to hearing if you're planning on reading any YA literature, whether it be 1 book or 4 or as many as you want to read. I'm curious about it. You know, another classic book that is coming to mind that I might want to pick up in the month of August is Catcher in the Rye. I don't have a copy of it here. I think I have a copy in my upstairs shelves. But that's a great coming of age story, and that's a great YA classic book that I have been meaning to reread. So that is all. Let me know your thoughts on YA literature, coming of age stories, and what you enjoy reading or rereading in terms of coming of age. Hasta la próxima.